Hey guys, so today on the Tea Time Show I'm just going to share with you a little bit of research I've been doing into Google local listings. So just the factors that might decide who is top, who is second, who is 10th, who is 40th for any particular search term. So these are particularly useful for local businesses, of course. I will stress this is early research and just some of the factors I'm looking into, and I'll cover maybe more detail in a future show. If you are familiar with what the local search listings are, you should probably skip the next 2 or 3 minutes to the good bits later on. If you're not, then just carry on watching for a moment. First thing is let's just do a local search, and for those of you that already know me, you'll know why I'm going to search for Indian restaurant, and let's do Birmingham. It's a pretty big town. It's going to have lots of Indian restaurants. So these are the Google search results, and what we get at the top, because it's a local search query, Google knows that I'm searching in a location in Birmingham, so we get what we call the local search stack at the top here, before the standard organic stack. Okay, so we're focused on just these listings at the top, and you'll notice that currently on desktop, where I'm searching, the local listings are showing 3. But if I click on more places, it takes me to the Google map results. Okay, and then these are in order of relevance to my query. So this session is really about how does Google decide what's most relevant for that query. So I've been doing quite a bit of work for a few hours on this, just trying to do some calculations with a big old spreadsheet to try and see why Lasan restaurant here is number 1, celebrity restaurant here is number 2, Pushkar is number 3, and so forth, right the way down to why a restaurant is position 40. So I've been doing this with various locations, various different types of restaurants, with takeaways rather than restaurants, just to see how the results span across different places. So the kind of speculation is that the ranking signals, we call them signals because there would be a stronger or a weaker signal for each of them. So you could have a really strong signal for proximity, so how close this particular business is to the centre of Birmingham, at least as far as the map is concerned. There might be a really strong signal for the number of reviews, and the average score of those reviews, so how many 5-star, 4-star, 3-star, 1-star, and so forth. Relevance to the search term, of course, so this is Indian restaurant Birmingham, so it would be reasonable to expect that something that was an Indian takeaway, if it was in that classification, that it wouldn't rank as highly, and if it was just a restaurant and not listed as an Indian restaurant, then again that signal might be considered weaker. So Google's using a mix of signals to determine who's top. So there won't be any one of these that you could optimize and suddenly propel yourself to number 1. So what I'm going to do in this session is just try and explore some of these to see if I can help you kind of optimize your Google Plus page, your business page, which is what's powering these things. So let's just have a look at the first one. So we're looking at search term relevance, we're looking at proximity, we're looking at reviews and the average scores, recency of reviews as well. So if someone's had reviews in the last week, month, 6 months, 12 months, or longer ago. So if a restaurant's got 25 reviews but they're all over a year old, does that mean that that's worth more than someone who has 10 reviews that are in the last 6 months, for example? So common sense would dictate that that's a reasonable factor to consider as a signal. What else have we got? Descriptive text of the business itself. So the description the business owner has actually put on there. Does that include Indian restaurant, for example? And then also there's a function which is, you'll see these come up on listings, called See Inside. And that's an internal view, so you can get a professional Google photographer to come and do this for you. and then people on the web, your customers, can actually see and do a 360-degree view inside your restaurant before they come. So that, again, is that a signal? Is that a factor that would influence the rankings? So let's just have a look at a few of these elements. So if we click on here, we can see that it says restaurant in the title of the business, so you would assume that's a signal of some strength. It's got 25 reviews, and the average review is 4.2. We've got street view and we've got photos here. We don't have the see inside function. So let's look at celebrity Indian restaurant. This one has the see inside. So hopefully this will load pretty quickly. Okay. So this is kind of like street view. I can spin around and see what's going on and what does this place look like. Okay, so it looks pretty nice place to eat. So that has the see inside. Now what I have found is, by analysing quite a few hundred different listings, is that of the businesses that have this see inside function, they do quite often tend to be within the top 5 listings. Not exclusively, but they are much more likely to be in the top 5 than they are further down. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that it is a strong ranking signal. It could just be that it correlates that these businesses are actually invested in providing a good experience on the web, and they're doing lots of other things as well, rather than this suddenly being some funky SEO shortcut where you can just go, well, if I get that done, I'm instantly propelled to number 1, number 2, number 3, whatever it might be. So it is interesting here, though, that between Lasan and Celebrity, so number 1 and number 2, number 1 has 4.2 average reviews and 25 reviews. Celebrity Indian Restaurant has 3.6 average and only has 9 reviews. But it does have the see inside functionality. So again, you can draw your own conclusions from that, but it's interesting. The next one down has 34 reviews and an average of 4.4. So again, interesting. What I've established with a lot of the data so far is that typically the business is listed in positions 1 to 5 and 1 to 10. Those all have typically much higher reviews. So a lot of them, the average is somewhere around 3.9 to 4.2. For the top 10, are much lower the further you go down. The next thing to mention about that is below 5 reviews, Google doesn't aggregate them and give you this this average. So let's see if we can just find an example of that. Okay, so this is a pretty competitive area. Let's go to the next. Okay, so this one here, it's got 4 reviews, and then Google hasn't given it an average. So you know, again, take what you will from that, but Google's obviously sort of saying there aren't enough reviews to really give a fair overview of whether this is a good business or it isn't. So again, that's an interesting one. So purely the number of reviews isn't a strong signal on its own, and again, this is in comparison to other businesses around your business. So if you've got 10 reviews and everyone else has got 5, then you're probably going to be ranked better than everybody else. It is a stronger signal. The other interesting thing, and you'll see, let's just do this where I hover over the map. So we can see number 1 is very close to the middle of the map. Number 2, very close. Number 3, very close. Number 4 is getting further out. So the signal in terms of proximity is weaker, but Akbar's is kind of overcoming that weakness by a much stronger signal with many more reviews. Although its average review is 3.8, which is not so great. This has the street view and it has photos. So yeah, I mean it's as I say, it's overcoming this kind of weak signal with a stronger signal on the number of reviews. Taj Mahal here, smack bang in the middle of the map, 4.9 average reviews, and 12 reviews as well. So, you know, the proximity signal is very strong. The average review score is very strong as well, one of the highest on here. But the number of reviews is weaker. So again, that's interesting. We can see some fairly clear signals coming through there. As we kind of hover over these, you see the location of these popping up on the map. Let's just close that. So you can see this one. Again, the proximity signal is very weak. The average score, 4.7, is very strong, and the number of reviews is very strong as well. So this one, again, is ranking very high, even though it's not close to where our search is. So again, no see inside as well. So I'm beginning to think that the see inside is great for users, but right now, Google isn't kind of counting that as a really strong signal. So if you want people to see inside your business before they come and see how clean it is, how stylish it is, what the decor's like, and it looks like a great night for a night out, place for a night out, then absolutely do it. Don't do it just purely to increase your rank. It doesn't appear to me at the moment that is a really strong signal there. So the next part that I spent a bit of time looking at is obviously we're looking at Indian restaurant Birmingham as well, and you can see there's a different business classification just here, Indian restaurant. That's just restaurant, not Indian restaurant, which is interesting. Just restaurant again, Indian restaurant, interesting. Let's kind of flick through to some a little bit further down. Okay, this one is Indian restaurant, vegetarian restaurant. So again, that signal of the business classification is a little bit weaker here. We're down in what position, 11, 12, 13 here. So the proximity signal is weaker here. The number of reviews is weaker. The average reviews are weaker, and also the business type, this business category, isn't specifically Indian, and in the title of the business it doesn't say Indian either. It does say Indian in the business description, and it does say restaurant as well. So again, we're looking for kind of individual signals there. Something else I have noticed as well while I was doing this, and it kind of it made me jump a little bit when it happened, and I thought, hang on, what's going on? So what happened is, as I got through, there was one in here, Panache. There's one on here. Here we go. So here's Panache, and pretty strong signal in terms of score, average score 4.1, decent number of reviews, but the proximity signal is very weak, but it's still in position where we're about 15 or so there, 15, 16. So how is a restaurant in Sutton Coldfield, which is quite away from Birmingham, how is that being ranked for Indian restaurant Birmingham? So there's obviously some other factors coming in here, but what I found happened is, if you keep your eye on these listings on the left hand side, if I move the map and centre Sutton Coldfield, these listings all update. So I found that these kind of juggled about, and if I zoom in, these change again. So now, where are we? We're still on, so we're on page 1 of the results technically. So now the first one is duet cuisine. So even though my search term is still Indian restaurant Birmingham, the map, the context of my search, has just changed. So I'm now almost telling Google, well, although I've typed Indian restaurant Birmingham, I'm really looking at Sutton Coldfield. And if I zoom in a little bit more into Sutton Coldfield, you'll see that these update again. So now duet has disappeared. Again, this kind of, I suppose, with kind of in terms of SEO, if you like, who's number one for a particular term, there's so many contexts to search now that you can't really say I'm number 1 or I'm number 2 or I'm number 3, because it depends exactly where the center of the map is here. It depends whether I'm on a mobile device. It depends how many reviews you have on that particular day. It may depend if you've been to that restaurant before, or if you've put a star, if you've bookmarked that, if you've left a review for that restaurant before. So those are all going to be factors that affect your personal search, or my personal search, when I search Google and I search Google Maps. So just for now, I would say the things that you need to be concerned with the strongest signals really, and it's quite obvious when you look at the first page of results, are doing a good job for your customers, be a good business, give your customers a good experience and ask them to place reviews. Because that certainly seems to be a very strong signal, is good reviews, and the number of reviews. More often than not, those businesses in the top 5 or 10 positions have more reviews than the average, way more, quite often actually, a lot higher percentage of have a lot more reviews than those in positions 11 to 40, for example. So that's definitely a ranking signal. Proximity, you can't do much about, apart from moving your business, which is going to be a bit tough. So you can't do a lot about the proximity, but you can be a better business and have more reviews than someone who is closer to the middle of that search, as you've seen there. I guess the message there is, if you're a really good Indian restaurant and people have a fantastic experience and lots of people have said they've got a great experience in your restaurant, then Google's kind of saying this is worth travelling a bit further than where you were looking, which makes sense in real life to me. So I would certainly say make sure the business classification here is correct. If you want to be found as an Indian restaurant, then you know that's what you classify yourself as. If you want to be found as an Italian restaurant, then Italian restaurant. If it's a more broader restaurant, then just use restaurant. You'll still get found for Indian. You also obviously want to put a description in, and you can see this particular business doesn't have one, but make sure that you're including those keywords, Indian and restaurant, or Italian and restaurant, or whatever your restaurant is, or whatever your business is, but make sure in your description, let's just zoom out a bit, let's go back to Birmingham, and okay, so Lassam restaurant, so this is Indian in the description as well, celebrity Indian restaurant, says it in the title, right, a restaurant here, Indian restaurant in the description. That's all, small signals that are fairly easy to game, if you like. So again, if everyone does that, then everyone becomes equal again. So we need to be a bit careful with those, but they're the kind of, yes, check them off the list and definitely make sure. So make sure you're categorized properly, make sure the descriptions say that you're an Indian restaurant or whatever keyword you're wanting to be found for. But most importantly, it seems to be make sure you're getting lots of reviews. And we'll do another show another day with a guest, hopefully, talking about how do we encourage and how do we get reviews for our businesses to increase this rank. So we'll do another show on another day for that. But subscribe for that. As ever, if you have some questions about this, or maybe you've got some experience of this and you've tried different things, maybe you want to be a guest on the show next time and just explore what you did and what you found worked. But as ever, comment in the comments. Give us a thumbs up and subscribe for more videos on digital marketing and how to grow your business online. Until next time, have a good week and see you online.